Welcome to Synchronize Swatches, your twice-monthly dose of coolness. I'm your host, Chris Gregory.
And I'm the other guy, Chip Johnson.
Every other week, we watch an episode of cult classic 90s sitcom Parker Lewis Can't Lose, and then we record ourselves talking about it.
It's time for Operation Record the Podcast. Are you ready?
Behemoth!
Which won't make any sense.
Nope.
Until
It's going to be nothing but random words from now on. Behemoth!
Gentlemen, synchronize swatches. Not a problem.
I've never liked you, Lewis.
Not a problem.
Eat now?
Clean out your locker, you're finished.
When I was driving to work today, it's really strange. Like, I was going down Jefferson, and I saw this guy on the Riverside hospitals down that way. You know, I saw this guy on the sidewalk. Is this old man in a wheelchair, like rolling himself along in a wheelchair, and he was wearing like the paper gown of a hospital visitor.
Okay.
Hospital attendee. What's the term? Patient.
Yeah.
He's just like slowly rolling himself. I mean, he was really old too. I was like, this fucking guy escaped.
Yeah, no, totally. He's like, I'm fucking out of here.
He's
not even
on
going to take
the
my
fucking
clothes.
run.
I'm just
Yeah.
making a break for it.
Yeah.
That's crazy, dude.
And I know there had to have been a story behind that. Like, you know, I
Yeah.
don't know what. Like there's probably an interesting story, or he's like God or something. You know, I saw God on the sidewalk
In a hospital gown.
Yeah, I'm getting the hell out of here. So, yeah.
Oh, man.
Very strange little
That is
experience
strange,
today.
dude. Oh,
Yeah.
my God.
The one thing I wanted to talk about before we start, if you don't mind, my mom was talking about watching, you know, she watches this, watches the YouTube version of this.
Oh, yeah.
And she was talking last week about just comments. She's enjoying it, but she was commenting on the amount of times we say the word fuck here. So just because, like, for whatever reason, that is like, you know, that's a word she doesn't like to say.
Of course.
She's always been a little, you know, a little squeamish about hearing it, you know. And I was telling him, I was like, you know, it's funny is that, like, you know, when I'm around them, I don't curse that much, you know, but I was like, I curse all the time. Like, that's just how I talk, you know. I was
Me
like,
too.
Chip might be the only person I've ever met who curses as much as I do.
Yes.
Just in normal conversation. And it comes, I was like, it comes through sometimes on the show. Like, I think we both kind of keep it toned down a little bit.
Yeah.
But there are times like when you get a little hyped up and it's just like every other word is fuck.
Like a fucking giraffe. Yeah, that was the last one I cut.
Yeah, it was funny. So
Yeah.
I was wondering, like, do you remember like when you started using profanity in your life?
Oh, I
Like
thought you were
how
going
old
to ask me to start bleeping all our cuss words.
No, actually, I was thinking what we should do for this segment, if it's not
Yeah.
too much work in
Yeah.
post, you should absolutely, for this entire segment, bleep out every profanity we use. And just, I mean, I think she'll think it's funny.
Yeah.
I'll think it's funny if it's just like this one segment, every time we say fuck or shit or whatever, you know,
Yeah.
we just have like a, you know, and you can leave this part where we're talking about it out.
Establishing it.
Yeah, I think we should definitely, you know, you can go ahead and start your story and
Yeah.
we'll talk about it, but absolutely bleep every time we say a profanity. I think it'd be fucking hilarious.
Bleep some words that aren't even profanities.
Yeah. Just have one long
There's a
string
shit ton
where
of
we're
bleeps in here.
Yeah. So, yeah, do you remember when you started using profanity in your life?
I'm sure it was like early to mid-teens, and at some point, I mean, you know, like you say, you make an effort not to cuss in front of your mom. At some point in my late teens or early 20s, I gave up on that because it just comes out, and
Yeah.
I was like, my parents are just gonna have to accept me for who I am. So I mean, I you know, for better or for worse, I mean, or for worse, I guess, I cuss. I do cuss in front of my parents, and you know, I feel bad for them, but it's just, I don't know, man. And I mean, so much so, it's so much a part of who I am that my sister a few Christmases ago gave me a coffee mug that says, "F off, I'm writing." I was like, she knows me well. She knows I write and I cuss.
That's really funny too. Like that you were that much older, because I think I started using profanity in like second grade. Like I remember.
Okay.
I remember like playing baseball in the backyard, and like a ball would get past me, and I'd be like, oh shit, go running after the ball, and then I'd like remember that my voice travels, and I'm like, my dad's in the front yard. I'm like, shoot, fudge. yeah. But the whole time, I don't know.
No, I was gonna say, I was late to the game, and maybe that's why I've been making up for it my whole life. I don't know, so yeah, it definitely was in my teen years. Once I just started, I don't know, rebelling more or whatever.
Right.
And then, like I said, I've just been making up for lost time. Same thing with like horror films. Like growing up, like all my friends watched Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th, all these freaking horror films, and my parents would not let me watch any of that stuff, Right. And then once I turned 17, 18, whatever you can do, and rent R-rated movies, and I could drive, I just started renting every f***ing horror film that I could find to get caught up to where all my friends were already. And it's one of those things that like I binged them so much, but now I'm just obsessed. I'm still obsessed with horror films. Like I just feel like I've always been trying to catch up, but
yeah, that's weird you say that about the horror films, because like I do remember being in first grade and kids in my class talking about like seeing Friday the 13th or whatever, like, and I'm just like, I'm still watching Sesame Street, and I'm just what, but it's funny too, because like now my daughter will talk about like kids in her class a couple of years ago, third grade or whatever, watching Squid Games and just like,
oh wow,
I don't understand that. Like I would not let them watch Squid Games, you know, at that age. But then, I started thinking back to those kids, and I was like, yes, there have always been kids that were, allowed to or exposed to things like that, for better or worse. Again, like you said, I don't know what it does to you, because I wasn't allowed to watch that. We weren't allowed to have toy guns, all those things. That as soon as you get, like you said, as soon as you get to a certain age, it's like, oh, I'm going to turn everything into a gun, or I'm going to watch, I'm going to watch Terminator because I'm not allowed to watch Terminator, go to a friend's house and watch Terminator or something like that, So anyway, I was just curious about the profanity thing, because it's just a part of, I think it's a shared trait,
yes, it definitely is.
Yeah. And I've always been kind of curious, like, when do people start doing that, because my kids do it, but I'm always like, if you could just wait until I'm not around, just, I'm not going to sit here and be like, don't say that. Just for God's sake, recognize that I'm standing here and wait till I walk away and then talk about whatever or say whatever,
Yeah.
It's about respect, people.
Yes.
Play the fucking game.
Step into a world of wonder.
Synchronize Swatches, Season 1, Episode 20. The English episode title is Randall Without a Cause, which, of course, is a reference to Rebel Without a Cause. And we're going to do something new here on our podcast. For the German episode title, which we have been butchering constantly. We. I'll take some of this. I'll take some of this burden, Chris. We are actually going to go to our friend Paul Coates. He is our listeners. If we have any listeners, well, remember that he's our one fan that wrote in. He's over in Germany, and he offered to record the German title so we wouldn't fuck them up.
His words.
So, Paul, give us the German title for Season 1, Episode 20.
Das wilde Leben.
Brilliant.
Thank you, Paul.
Done that.
I was just about to say, I think you could have gotten that one, Chris.
Yeah, but he brought something else to it, something professional about it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Paul. That was great.
Thank you, Paul. And so the translation for that German episode title is The Wildlife. Original air date, March 10th, 1991. Max Tash returning to direct, and Lon Diamond and Clyde Phillips, the showrunners, were the writers on this episode. So my episode synopsis. When Mikey Randall starts riding with a new biker gang, he finds himself on the wrong side of the law. A misplaced code of honor has him obstructing justice, and he faces jail time. Mikey is on a head-on collision with juvenile detention, and it's up to Parker to help him change his course. So our opening gag this week is based on the clapper. Did you guys ever have the clapper?
No.
In your
I
house?
remember the commercials, but we never got one. No.
Yeah, we never had them either. But for anybody who doesn't know, what's that? Yeah, I know.
I don't know if anybody actually did.
I don't know if I knew anybody that had them either. But I definitely remember the commercials. And there was definitely tons of gags and TV shows about them. But for anyone who doesn't know, the clapper is a device that I think you plug into the wall and then you plug a light or some device into it. Mm-hmm. And you can actually trigger it on and off by a double clap. Like, it was big in the 80s. Yeah, just shut off my computer. Why'd I put my computer on the clapper? But anyway, so that's the whole basis for our gag this episode. So a double clap brings us out of darkness to find Parker, Mikey, and Jerry in Parker Central. Parker tells Jerry to give it a try. He's a bit reticent at first, but he finally does, and we plunge to black and get our first credit. Another double clap brings us back. This time, Jerry is alone. Anxiously, he calls out for the sirs, and they finally drop down from the f***ing ceiling. Like, why were they up in the girders of the ceiling? Like, what?
Yeah.
Why were they in the f***ing ceiling? Anyways, they start laughing, and Jerry's relieved. And Mikey double claps us back to black. And another double clap brings us back to find Jerry's missing this time. Parker and Mikey look around anxiously. Mikey says, "This isn't funny," which is totally a double standard.
Absolutely, yeah.
And Jerry finally pops up from behind some gear, and he's smiling, and he claps us back into black once again.
He's smiling very big, too. He's like shoulders shaking when he's laughing. He's so pleased with himself.
He's having a grand old time.
Yeah.
So yet another double clap brings us up, brings the lights up, and Parker tells Jerry to cut it out, and Mikey says, "Yeah, enough with the clapping." They both are very perturbed.
Yeah.
Jerry looks confused and insists it wasn't him that time. The buds all look around alarmed as another clap dips us to black one final time, and everyone screams.
Yeah, it's a really short scream, too. Like, it's not like this, it's just like a, ah! And then we cut to this part. Yeah, it was funny. It was interesting that they chose to start with that, too, because that device is like, even at this point, is like 6 or 7 years old. So it was funny that they're all like, check this thing out, and like, whoa, look at that, clap your hands, It was, it's weird. Yeah. We cut to Sparky's, which is a restaurant, so we tilt down from the sky to find this burger joint. Yeah, I love that greasy spoon look to this kind of place, like kind of a 50s style, but it definitely has that 50s vibe. Not necessarily waitress on roller skates, but close to it, right? Very much. It kind of reminded me of that place Smitty's over there in Hampton. Yes. It's kind of that, independently owned, like little greasy spoon place where you drive up and, they bring the food out or whatever. Teenagers sit outside and smoke. And cuss. Yeah. That's right. I love Smitty's, man. I've forgotten all about that place. Is that still around? I think so. I think it burned down some years ago, but they rebuilt it. Oh, wow. But I haven't been there. I just am aware of that, yeah. All that grease, man. You're bound to get a fire at some point. That's right. It was a tater tot fire, damn it. Yes. Anyway, so after various shots in and around the restaurant Sparky's, which is very hopping. I mean, there's a ton of people there. And all like teenagers and stuff. But we find Larry Kubiak at the drive-thru, and the car he's driving is comically small. Yeah, what the f*** is that he's driving? It kind of looks like a bug, like a Volkswagen bug, but it's not a bug. It's like some other car company. But it's like, it kind of has the look and feel of a bug. But it's like a convertible. Like, it has no top. Because he's like... Yeah, he's sticking out the freaking top of the car. Yeah. More so than you would in any other convertible. The windshield accomplishes nothing for him. No. So anyways, he starts giving his order to the giant raccoon head that is Sparky's two-way speaker.
I would like 14 double chili cheeseburgers, 75 large fries, diet root beer, 11 milkshakes in assorted flavors. There's a funny shot here too, like in that when they're cutting through, showing you all the kids doing joking with each other or whatever. There's a shot at like 56 seconds where they're really close on this guy who's eating a chicken nugget, and like the way they catch it, he's obviously not eating it. Like he's just sort of putting it towards his mouth, but he's like, oh. Oh no, I missed that. I gotta look. It's real quick. When I was scooting back and forth trying to find background stuff, from the shots. And it just happened to go across the shot of this guy pretending to eat a nugget. It's really funny. 56 seconds. Look at it. Yeah, I'm going to check that out and cut that in. Yeah. So then we cut from Kubiak ordering at the drive-thru to Parker and Mikey and Jerry, who are sitting down to eat a massive amount of junk food
while discussing how upset Jerry is about not getting his He-Man mug. And I'll note, he's only upset about getting the My Little Pony mug instead because he already has the entire set.
Yeah. They're really laying into like how young and childish Jerry is in this particular scene.
They totally are, and even more so in a minute here.
Yeah.
So we cut back to Kubiak, who's still ordering in the drive-thru. Yep. Then we go back to the Buds, and we see a biker gang pull up, and it's not your typical biker gang.
No.
They're riding like, I think it's Kawasaki's or something. They're not
crotch
Harleys.
Rockets.
Yeah, crotch rocket type stuff.
Yep.
And most of all, their outfits. Their outfits are criminally 90s.
Yeah, exactly. They're all wearing like jams, like you were describing back in the earlier episodes, and they've got they're leather jackets, but they're like multicolored leather jackets, and Sammy's has a big 8-ball on the back.
Yeah, it's so ridiculous.
They've got like Macho Man Randy Savage sunglasses and shit.
Yes, they do.
It's just so yeah, it's so 90s. They're not even remotely like intimidating.
No, the goofiest biker gang ever.
Yeah.
It's great. Mikey is, of course, enamored with them, though.
Yeah.
So he watches these guys. He watches in awe as these guys, especially their leader, Sammy, dismounts their bike, and Sammy goes to inspect his for some reason. Yeah. And Sammy's played by Brad Tatum, known for Melrose Place, The Burning Zone, NYPD Blue, Hunter, ER, a number of other things.
Yeah, he's in the movie The Stoned Age, which I believe we watched. I think I remember watching that.
That sounds vaguely familiar. I remember watching it around the time, because it came out around the time of Dazed and Confused, right? It was like kind of, I don't know if it was a ripoff or if it was just paled, like it was just in the shadow of Dazed and Confused.
Yeah. Well, the fucking box, the quote they have on the box, I looked it up.
Yeah.
On the DVD release, it says, quote, better than Dazed and Confused.
I don't recall that being the case, but maybe we should revisit The Stone Age. I do know we've watched this. I probably watched it a few times in the 90s.
Yeah.
Definitely a stoner heavy movie. I'm sure I was on a tear there watching a bunch of those.
It's one of those movies from the 90s that you just watched when you were in high school, like SFW or whatever, just like this, just a movie for teens to watch.
PCU?
Yeah, exactly. PCU. Yeah, I do.
Jeremy Pivens.
Yeah.
And a young Jon Favreau.
That's right.
Before he went on
Gutter.
Yeah, Gutter. Can you blow me where the Pampers is?
I love that. I love when they clarify it, because that lady's just like, will you show me where the campus is? So dumb.
Oh, God. And now he's like a big-time director.
Yeah, that's right.
So anyways, we're back with Coob again, and he's still ordering more food.
21 tuna melts, 14 donut holes, 103 pizza slices, 52 anchovy, 51 pepperoni. You guys have He-Man mugs?
All out. We have My Little Pony mugs.
And Kubiak actually looks very pleased about this. I mean, everybody loves My Little Pony. Who doesn't?
Sure.
Back with the Buds, Parker's trying to tell Mikey that he's got new Swiss bearings for his skateboard. But Mikey is paying no attention. He's distracted by the bikers. Parker in VO then says, Mikey Randall, a boy in constant struggle between the responsibility of high school and the freedom of his motorcycle. I'm afraid someday the motorcycle is going to win. At this point, Sammy is trying to start his bike, but something's wrong and it's not working. Mikey approaches and tells him that his spark plug cap is loose. And he says, you can't get any lightning into your cylinder.
Cool.
I don't know why, but I like that line. You can't get any lightning into your cylinder.
Hey, thanks, man. Listen, you want to ride with us, or you got to babysit your sons?
So fucking savage.
At which point, Mikey looks over to Parker and Jerry eating their food, and Jerry is actually in his fucking pajamas, and he's feeding soda to his teddy bear.
Yeah, and I saw you had this note too, but like, it's not just that Jerry is sitting there in his pajamas feeding soda to a teddy bear, but even Parker looks like a little kid, because I don't know if he's shrunk down at all or if he's just playing it really small, but he looks like a little kid the way he's munching on his French fry,
100%. He did a great job.
Yeah.
To not have the visual cue that they gave Jerry,
right.
But still come off as like a little kid eating his French fries. It was a great performance.
Yeah.
I love that gag.
Yeah.
So Mikey turns back to Sammy just as Jerry says, "Oh, Mr. Randall, tonight is Pet the Bunny night at the mall."
Great timing there, Jerry.
Such a child. Yeah, so Mikey's, of course, embarrassed, and Sammy just laughs, and the bikers take off, and we cut to commercial. Back from commercial, we're back at Sparky's to find Jerry playing some kind of racing game, and there's a bunch of arcade machines here, similar to that last episode's opener.
Oh, yeah.
We see
right.
Arch Rivals, Galaga, and a couple other games.
Yeah, I think Super Off-Road was on there. He might
Super
have been playing
Off-Road,
that,
yeah.
Yeah, it was funny because I was like, well, I guess Jerry's back on the shit again.
Yeah.
You know? It's like he went through all that pain in episode 16, and now, a couple episodes in a row, he's out there fucking, playing the video games again.
The fucking junkie.
He's a junkie.
So after Jerry's game is done, he finds Parker and Mikey's staring out the window as Sammy and his gang pull up again. And this is weird because I think it's just later after they ate their food and they went back inside to play video games. So
yeah,
the bikers took off, but now they're back. I don't know what's going on. I guess they're just cruising.
It's a very strange, it's a very strange transition because it's, we have the little block of time that's passed because we've been watching commercials. But yeah, it seems like, I was like, did those guys go to the mall and come back or,
Yeah, but obviously they didn't come. It's the same clothes. It's the same time of day.
Yeah.
And actually, Mikey suggests they get the hell out of there and go to the mall. And he's like, why do we want to hang around here playing video games like kids or something? Yeah. And so they head outside just in time to see Sammy and his gang terrorize some poor schmuck. They tousle his hair and they pour soda on him.
Yeah.
And after that, Sammy karate kicks a line of bicycles over. It's like a whole line of them. So he kicks one of them and, of course, starts a chain reaction and just knocks over all the bikes.
He's very problematic in the way he prepares to do that. He does a problematic 90s impression of a karate guy.
Oh,
and then
yes.
Kicks these fucking bikes over, yeah.
Yeah, a bit,
a little
racist. A bit inappropriate. And I have a note here. I'm like, these guys are complete D-bags, man.
Yeah.
Like, and so I don't know what the hell's wrong with Mikey. But he stands there enthralled for some reason with these guys. And Parker and Jerry drag him away. Yeah. And we cut back to Kubiak, still ordering food. Then we cut to the parking lot of the school, which I have to say, there's not much happening at the school during this episode. Most of this episode takes place, I guess, at Sparky's, really, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Sparky's or like the school parking lot. Like I don't think we're ever inside the school. So we're in the school parking lot, and Jerry runs up to tell the buds that Nick at Night is airing a marathon of the Dobie Gillis episodes with Warren Beatty. I have a note here. So I guess Warren Beatty played Milton Armitage in season 1 of Dobie Gillis. So he's kind of like the rich jock of the high school and was kind of a rival of Dobie's. But Warren Beatty quit the series midway through the first season. Maybe to pursue film.
I've never seen an episode of that before.
I have. I mean, I was probably... I was a teenager because I do remember it on Nick at Night. I was going to ask you, do you remember, like, what are your memories of Nick at Night?
Most of what I remember from Nick at Night was like Mr. Ed and like the Beverly Hillbillies and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, specifically Mr. Ed. I remember their, when they would switch over, be that and like Bewitched, like black and white episodes of Bewitched and stuff,
Yeah. It's such a strange thing because, for anybody that doesn't know, back in the day, Nickelodeon went off the air at 8, which it was a kids channel. Still is. I mean, I guess it's still around, but it actually didn't run 24 hours a day. It went off the air at 8 and was like Nick at Night took over. And they just, I guess because it was cheap to purchase all that IP, they said tons of 50s and 60s shows.
Yeah.
And it's weird because, like, I guess, preteens, early teens, I was exposed to a ton of that stuff, and it just was part of my pop culture, even though it was like decades before.
Yeah.
So it was like, those shows were ingrained along with Parker Lewis and other stuff for me, which is really it's really a weird anachronistic pop culture stuff.
Yeah, I remember that stuff seeing that stuff on Nick at Night, and you would see it on like rain delays for baseball games on TBS or whatever. I used to watch Braves games or watch Cubs games on WGN. Yeah, and whenever there'd be a rain delay, they'd always pop on like a Beverly Hillbillies, and they'd always show that stuff in the afternoon as well. Yeah, because they just own the library of those shows, So
yeah, exactly.
And I think Nick at Night still exists. Actually, I think they still, but they show like
split off, right? So it's its own thing now.
For a while there, I know, maybe 10 years ago, you could turn on Nickelodeon at like 10 o'clock and like Friends would be on or something, or like George Lopez or something. They were showing stuff like that, but
I thought it split off and then Nickelodeon just became a 24-hour thing, but maybe I'm wrong with that. I may be wrong. I have not done my research.
Yeah.
I'm just assuming shit.
It's not like we're doing a show or anything. Who cares? I did want to point out too, like you haven't mentioned the thing about the. Do you want to read the next line? And then
So after Jerry tells him about the Dobie Gillis marathon, Parker says that's great, and maybe he'll break out his Twilight Zone episode with Robert Redford. To which Jerry responds, "I'm so lucky to be alive."
That made me. I love that line because it's like that whole sequence. Is such a slice of something that doesn't exist anymore. And is only recognizable for a certain age bracket because Jerry is super excited because he sees that they're going to show this thing on Nick at Night so he can watch Dobie Gillis on Nick at Night. And then, Parker mentions seeing the Twilight Zone with Robert Redford and how they're both so happy to be alive because these things are available. And also like, I guess I took that to mean that like Parker has that episode on tape or something,
Exactly.
And it's like to hear somebody say that and you think like now it's like we could stop right now and watch the entire series of Dobie Gillis if we wanted to. Probably, Yeah. Even how much has changed in the past 20 years of like, you don't have to record shit anymore.
Yeah.
On anything physical. You don't have to just like stumble onto something, which is always, I kind of miss that like excitement of stumbling onto something, like an episode of Star Trek or something that's like you haven't seen in a long time. It's just a thing that doesn't exist anymore, because everything's right. You can watch anything you want whenever,
Yeah, I mean that's my whole thing. Like I'm a bit torn on that whole thing because it's like I love the fact that I think of something, I can look it up and watch it instantly. Yeah. Might have to pay for it if I don't have the subscription service that it's on, but whatever. But it's like anything I want to watch within a 5 or 10 minutes, I can be watching it. It's fucking great. I love the accessibility, but I'm with you. I miss we spend a lot of times when we don't know what we want to watch, we spend about an hour trying to figure out what the to watch.
Right.
Whereas like you just be, what's on tonight? And like, oh, I'll watch that. Or you're like, there's nothing on. I'm going to go do something productive. I love being able to stumble across stuff. I mean, definitely as a kid, I stumbled across stuff like, especially like on the USA Network and stuff, like just random horrible films, and I love that. Which I have to say, so I still do one thing I do. I don't know if you have Pluto. Why did I say it like that? Pluto.
You're feeling debonair for a minute.
Pluto.
I don't know if you subscribe to
Pluto on your smart television, but they've got live TV that you could just turn on and be like, oh, such and such is on, and they've got a ton of channels. So as far as just like letting the universe decide what you're going to watch, you could do that.
Yeah.
Which I've also set up with my Plex, though it is from my library, so it's definitely stuff I've seen. Pluto, though, is a little more random because it's not necessarily stuff from my library.
Yeah.
So you can still do that. And I sometimes I prefer to just be like, universe, tell me what to watch.
Yeah. It's just an interesting thing to you get that little slice of 1990, and I don't really think there's a this is better or that's better. It's just different experience.
It's just different. Yeah.
So
I mean, in a way, it's better now because you have the choice, right?
Right.
Like I say, you can opt to just turn on something that's on air or something like that's just got stuff streaming all the time.
Yeah.
Actually, Shudder does that too. I love Shudder because I love horror films, and probably one of the best subscriptions that I have. They actually have like one channel, like when you open up their app, like it's on. Like, oh, this thing's on. Like halfway through Night of the Living Dead or something, that's pretty cool for horror stuff. Anyway, so they ask Mikey if he's going to join them. Mikey answers absently that he will, but of course he's preoccupied with Sammy and the gang who are driving up at that very moment. Mikey walks up to Sammy and compliments him on his new bike. I guess Sammy just got a new bike since the last time we saw him. Because Mikey even says, I didn't even know those were out yet.
Yeah, it's a Ninja.
Yeah. So Sammy asks Mikey if he wants to run with them tonight and find something nasty to do.
Yeah, I made a note of that too. I was like, nasty, huh? What the fuck does that mean?
What does that mean?
The way he says it too. He's just find something nasty to do.
It just makes me feel dirty.
Yeah.
Gross. But Mikey agrees. He's down for doing something nasty. So then Musso and Lemmer march up.
Motorcycles on campus? On my campus?
Shall I call the police?
Hey, you do, and I'll make sure your ponytail's mounted to my bike.
Don't you threaten him, you hoodlum. Get off this campus at once.
There have been famous standoffs in history. Patton versus Rommel, Lee versus Grant, Dan Quayle versus a locked door. And now history records another. Sammy the Biker versus Grace Musso.
Guess we'll see you tonight, Randall.
Parker and Jerry approach Mikey as Sammy and the bikers leave. And they're actually a little upset that he's blowing them off for Dobie Gillis because they heard him agree to go out with Sammy tonight. And Mikey gets angry and says, look, I just want to do something on my own for once. Something not so high school.
Yeah.
So he storms off.
This episode has serious, like, close but no guitar vibes, you know? It's got real, like, you know, Mikey doesn't want to be in high school anymore. It's very, you know, the vibes are exactly the same, basically, as that episode, yeah. And these fucking dorks. These fucking dorks on their bikes.
Yeah.
I don't get it.
I know, man. Yeah. I mean, I get him maybe like, hey, man, I got to go cruise my bike tonight, you know, alone, do the lone wolf thing. I can't watch Dobie Gillis. I get that, you know? Yeah. But, the fact that he's just enamored with these D-bags on the Kawasaki's.
Yeah, these fucking guys.
Stupid. So we cut to nighttime. It's the street, and Mikey is riding with Sammy and the gang.
Yeah, and I mean, just to your point, like, he's riding in the middle of a circle of crotch rockets on his fucking Harley. It looks ridiculous. This is not the kind of, like, badass motherfuckers who would be out there, you know, cruising. You either have one or the other, you know. I don't think they typically mix, you know.
No.
So it doesn't. The vibes are just way off. They're all over the place.
Exactly. But they pull up in front of a suburban house and start riding their bikes through the yard, knocking over trash cans and destroying the landscaping. Mikey's actually a little upset. He said he wanted to make some noise, but this is a little too far. And he tries to stop Sammy, but Sammy tells him to get out of the way, and he nearly runs him over.
Yeah, and it's clearly not Sammy on the bike. I don't know if you It's like, when they cut to that wide shot, it's like, that is obviously a man with a huge wig on. Yeah, you know, you're going to see that from time to time, but there are times where it's just really like, oh, man, look at that.
Oh, I know. So Mikey goes to the front door of the house, and he's about to knock, I guess to apologize.
Yeah, that's what I was
and the
thinking.
door swings open and reveals Miss Musso. They are both actually surprised to see each other.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised that he was surprised. Like, he didn't know where she lived. I kind of assumed he would know, you know.
Yeah. But, yeah, you think, they've planted audio devices in her bedroom for mind control.
Yeah.
So I'm sure they know where she lives.
Yeah. For mind control and to listen to fucking Pankow. Work on her all night long. Whatever the fuck he said.
Day and night. Oh, God.
That's nasty.
That's some nasty. So anyways, they're surprised to see each other. And Miss Musso sees the damage to her lawn, and she is furious.
Yeah. She
slams the door, and we actually get our glass break of the episode. I love that her front door has glass in it that she can break. That's fucking great.
And then she just walks away with her front door glass broken.
I know.
Don't you want to do something about that or go somewhere else? Leave your door unsecured.
So then Mikey turns to see Sammy and the gang abandon him as the cops roll up, and we cut to commercial.
You guys were dangerous dudes, huh?
Back from commercial, we are in jail with Mikey, a Dragnet type VO, another Nick at Night show.
Oh, that's right. Yep.
Dragnet type VO states,
Young Mr. Randall, a teenager destined to lead a life of crime, joining a group of renegade bikers.
Excuse me. I'll do the voiceovers around here. Mikey Randall, portrait of a teenage criminal, stuck in jail for a crime he didn't commit. His only crime was wanting to fit in.
I love that he's aware that he's doing voiceovers.
Yeah, I know. It's kind of like the second time they've kind of fucked around with the VO, right? Because Miss Musso interrupted his VO one time, which was really cool.
Yeah.
So anyways, Mikey asks his cellmate what he's in for, and the man answers, blowing up the Berlin Wall. And Mikey informs the man the wall was systematically disassembled by a mutual consent of Russia and the United States.
Yeah.
And I love the guy's answer. He says, I told him I was innocent.
Yeah, that whole fucking exchange is great.
I know.
I love how Mikey says that too. He's like, the wall was systematically just. It's just like, listen, man, I hate to break it to you, but
yeah,
it's the smartest thing Mikey's ever said on this show.
Yeah. So then Parker and Jerry show up, and Jerry's brought Mikey's guitar for him, so he hands it off to him. And he pulls a dustbuster from his jacket and starts cleaning the bunk bed.
I love that. Like, Jerry's like the perfect guy to visit you in jail, man. Like, he can fit anything in it.
Oh, that's true.
A guitar.
Yeah. He can bring in a saw. Like, he can bring in a lockpick set.
Yeah. A case of dynamite. If we're going full cartoon, you might as well go full cartoon.
Yeah. A spoon and a Rita Hayworth poster.
Yeah. Exactly. Something about a mouse fart. I can't remember. I think that's what the warden says.
Yeah.
I don't give a mouse fart or some shit.
Okay, so Parker tells Mikey that Musso never actually saw him do it, so all he has to do is tell the cops who did. Mikey refuses, though. He said he won't be a rat. It's just not what guys do. And Parker tells him, well, that's a load of crap. He's like, that may be how pals do stuff, but not people you just met. At that moment, a guard comes in and gets the three of them, because apparently Sergeant Melman wants to talk to Mikey. So they're instructed to sit down on a bench in the hallway and wait for Melman. I don't think they actually end up ever sitting, because there's this guy, a crazy-looking dude, who's handcuffed to the bench. So they kind of just stand there. And this guy looks to the buds, and he asks them to unlock him, to uncuff him. And they refuse, but he says, I'm an undercover cop, so it's okay. And he's got like this wild hair and like, you know, like military fatigues. But the buds refuse to help, and the guy says, fine, I'll do it myself. And he starts to gnaw at his own wrist.
Yeah, and you can hear like dog growling sound effects when he does that. Like, I like the fact that he's an undercover cop, undercover at the fucking police station,
handcuffed to the bench.
Yeah, handcuffed to the bench. But yeah, when he starts chewing on his wrist, you hear like this dog growling sound effect in the background. It's great.
So the buds, seeing this, decide that they better just go wait in Melman's office. So they do. And when Sergeant Melman shows up, it is, of course, the crazy dude from the hallway. I guess he gnawed himself out. He comes in and strips off his disguise, and Sergeant Melman is actually played by Charles Rocket of Saturday Night Live fame.
Yeah.
He also did some movies, Dances with Wolves, Hocus Pocus, Dumb and Dumber. I see you have here, he's on a Greg the Bunny episode. I need to revisit that show.
That's a great show, yeah. It's a fun one.
Back in Melman's office, Melman first grills Jerry, who cracks instantly and confesses to shoplifting some raspberry Pez back when he was 6 years old. But then I think Melman like threatens to take him in or something, and he just said, no, I'm just joking. And he turns to Mikey, and he's trying to get him to give up the names, but Mikey insists that he doesn't know who did it. But there's a lot of back and forth here where it's not clear whether Melman is eccentric or a freaking nut job.
Yeah. And he's nothing but whoosh sound effects. Like every single move of his face is like, whoosh, 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 you know, which we're used to on this show, but it's like everything he does is that sound effect.
Because he's so frantic and so all over the place. There's whooshes for everything. And I love like when he plops down next to Mikey. I didn't have this in the notes, but he plops down next to Mikey and he like taps him on the face, and there's like bongo sounds or something when he taps him on the face. It's just there's so many sound effects with Melman here. It's great. It's just a very fun scene. But we end with Melman finally deciding to give Mikey 48 hours to think about his situation.
Is this the scene where he says something about this is the one where Mikey says something about needing a lawyer, and then he hands him a card or whatever because he's also a lawyer, and when it cuts back to him, he's just got glasses on.
Yes, it's great. Yeah,
like that makes him a lawyer, like a smarty guy. He's wearing glasses.
It's a great scene, man.
Yeah.
So he tells Mikey 48 hours to think about his situation, or he's going to jail.
Yeah.
Or juvie, I guess. So the buds leave, and we realize that Melman has somehow handcuffed himself to the desk lamp. So
really funny.
Back on your point about why is this undercover cop handcuffed to the bench in the hallway?
Yeah.
He probably wasn't hauled in. He probably just sat down at the bench and accidentally handcuffed himself.
Yeah, maybe. That's possible.
Because we'll see him do this again.
Yeah. I love that recurring little slapstick thing.
Yeah. So we cut to the school parking lot again, and Sammy's there and Mikey's there, and Sammy asks Mikey to come along and graze some babes.
Yeah, that's gross.
Sammy's dialogue is kind of icky.
He's fucking gross, man.
Want to get into something nasty? Graze some babes?
Graze some babes? How old are you, dude?
Oh, God. So Mikey says no, and Sammy's actually a little disappointed. He appreciates Mikey sticking up for the gang, but after the exchange, Sammy decides that Mikey is not ready to play with the big boys, and the biker gang tears out of there.
Yeah, it's really hard to take these guys seriously as a threat.
Totally.
They're just so clownish, you know?
Yes. So Parker asks Mikey why he's sticking up for these creeps, and Mikey says, if you have to ask, you wouldn't understand.
What do you think, you're James Dean or something?
Hey, James Dean was totally cool. His image, his clothes, his wheels, his lifestyle.
You know what he was when he died?
I don't know, 70.
Try 24. He and his lifestyle were in a head-on collision. I don't want that to happen to you.
It won't, Park.
Mikey insists that it won't. He's different, and he takes off. So we cut back to Kubiak, who is still ordering food. And at this point, the Sparky Raccoon speaker is now smoking.
Yeah.
I guess he's overloading the system.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. I forgot to point this out earlier, but every time he asks for something, there's just this gag where the voice on there is just going, he orders something, the voice goes, uh-huh. And then he orders something else and it goes, uh-huh, uh-huh.
It's great.
It's just over and over and over.
It's
like
great.
There's no point where they're like, what? Are you out of your mind? They're just like taking the fucking order.
The whole rhythm of these Coob scenes is just freaking great. Yeah, the speaker's smoking. And at the end of Coob's order, he asks if they happen to have any Grey Poupon. And the drive-thru guy says, but of course. And a gloved hand comes in from out of frame, holding a silver platter, upon which sits a jar of said Dijon mustard.
A reference to the commercials from the day.
Yep.
Do you happen to have any Grey Poupon?
So then we cut back to Parker Central, and Parker is visited by Sergeant Melman, who's now dressed as a cowboy for some reason. Like deep undercover.
So he can do the voice, man.
Yes.
You there, partner.
Exactly. He's not only dressed like a cowboy, he's got his best cowboy drawl going on.
Yeah.
And he tells Parker he needs to help Mikey with a more direct approach. He says,
a little audio-visual tricks might help to sink Dr. Panko and help old Kubiak pass that football math. This time you're going to have to try a little bit harder.
Yeah. I love that he says Dr. Panko.
Yeah. I love the references to past episodes, too.
I know. Great. It's great.
Yeah.
Help Kubiak pass that football math.
When you get to the end of the scene, I have a theory to propose about Sergeant Melman.
Okay, cool. So after Melman says that, Parker asks Melman how he knows about all this stuff, and Melman answers, "You're just like that kid on TV, that Ferris Lewis guy. I don't know, I get them all mixed up." A great little meta joke there.
Yeah.
And Parker leaves, and Melman says that, don't worry, I'll let myself out. But of course, he somehow handcuffed himself to a chair.
That just made me laugh when I saw that. I was like, there he is again, handcuffing himself to something else. Just funny slapstick humor, you know?
Yeah. But yeah, speaking of, Melman's cowboy dialogue, there's some great lines. He has one that's like, hanging out with those tumbleweed boys is bad news. Tumbleweed boys. And this one, Musso's place ain't the first ranch to get its fields plowed out of season. Know what I'm saying?
It's so dumb.
The first ranch to get its fields plowed out of season.
Know what I'm saying? Yeah. So the theory I wanted to suggest here is that I think, and you could tell me what you think by the time we get to the end of the episode, but I'm suggesting here that Sergeant Melman isn't real, that he doesn't actually exist, because the only people who see him or talk to him are Parker, Mikey, and Jerry. And
Kubiak, yeah.
Yeah. And then, like, the buds, all these people whose faces eventually shine gray at the end of the episode.
Yes.
I think he might be a specter or something, because, like, he just shows up in places. He showed up in Parker Central. I think he's not real.
I like that theory, man. I like it.
Yep. All right.
He's a great character, too, man.
Yeah. So watch the entire episode again with that in mind.
Yeah. I got to do that.
Because he disappears at the end of the episode,
He does.
While they're talking to him.
Imminent danger, sirs.
So we're back at Sparky's. It's nighttime as Parker confronts Sammy and the gang. Sammy and the boys start circling Parker with their motorcycles.
This is a very brave Parker scene. Yes. Like, look at Parker. He's just like, F these guys.
Yeah. He's like, I'm going to tell him what's what. So Parker says it's time for them to confess. And I think Sammy says something like, what? That we didn't do our homework? And then Parker, yeah. And then Parker says no to impersonating a friend. He's like, I know you're just using Mikey as a scapegoat. So at this point, I guess Sammy gets kind of pissed. The gang stops their bikes and they surround Parker on foot now. They are about to beat his ass. But just then, the wind picks up, and we cut to Jerry, who's sitting on the curb. It's somewhere there near Sparky's, but he's sitting on the curb, eating some French fries. The wind blows in, and he looks up. And for some reason, his face goes like black and white.
Yeah, that's the magic of the buds.
Yeah.
Rising up out of
I don't know
him.
why it's black and white, but yeah. It's Dobie Gillis. It's the ghost of Dobie Gillis. And Nick at Night. So then anyways, we cut to Mikey, who's actually in Parker Central, and he's about to eat a slice of pizza. The wind blows in, he looks up, and his face goes black and white too. As if in a trance, he walks off out of frame.
Yeah, I love that. I love the magic. The best buds magic that's rising up out of all of them, yeah.
There's always a wind that blows in, you know?
Yeah.
And we cut back to Sparky's, where Jerry is rushing to Parker's aid. He tries to actually leap onto Sammy, but completely misses, and he ends up sprawled out on the ground.
I made a note of here because it's funny because there's like some Super Mario sound effect when he jumps through the air. But yeah, this is like, I was so proud of Jerry for this. He's just like, he just runs out there, jumps. He's, you know, you're right. He ends up on his face on the ground, but by God, he's going to fucking go out fighting.
Yeah, him and Parker, man. They're just pulling out the courage for their bud, man. So at that point, we cut to Kubiak, who is still ordering, apparently. I thought it was over when he ordered the Grey Poupon or asked for the Grey Poupon, but he's still ordering. There's maybe this is dessert he's ordering now. But as the wind blows in, Kubiak looks up and his face goes black and white too. And I have a note here about these black and white face things. Yeah, it's like it's some sort of like spidey sense, you know, about the best buds. Maybe it's like this best buds beacon thing.
Yeah, I thought that was genuinely exciting. That one was actually genuinely exciting when Kubiak gets the best bud beacon over his face. I was like, oh shit, it's about to pop off because he's like bag it up.
Yeah,
or whatever he says.
Yeah, so he tells. So when he looks up, his face turns black and white, and he realizes his buds are in trouble. He tells the drive-through guy to pop his order under the heat lamp.
Yeah,
which is a mess. Right, I don't even know if they have enough heat lamps, but for all his food.
Yeah.
But he says, pop it under the heat lamp, and he leaps from his car and rushes off. Now we're back with Parker. Sammy and his goons are about to pummel him when, in the distance, we hear a stomping and a growl, and we see the giant silhouette of Kubiak marching out of backlit smoke, fists clenched. He picks up Sammy and carries him off, slung over his shoulders. And we cut to the police station, where Kubiak drops Sammy down on a table. Melman and Mikey emerge from the sergeant's office. Parker is actually surprised to see Mikey, but Melman informs Sammy and the gang that Mikey has agreed to talk. At this point, Kubiak just growls viciously at Sammy. Sammy leaps up, and he begs Melman to let him talk instead. He'll confess to everything. So Melman thanks Kubiak, and he instructs a nearby officer to deputize him. Kubiak is cool with this, but he insists on eating first, and Melman feeds him a fish from his pocket. At this point, Melman hands, I think, Parker his business card, but it's not for being a lawyer. It's not for being a cop. It's for like a dance instructor or something.
Yeah.
And him and Parker and Mikey look at him like, what the hell? And they look up, and Melman has disappeared, like you said.
Yeah. I don't think he's a ghost. That's too many fucking people to interacted with him. Sammy's interacted with him. The fucking the other cop or whatever.
Yeah.
Coob.
Yeah.
Oh well, it was an interesting theory while it lasted.
You've already abandoned your theory, man. That was really quick.
There's too many fucking people in this circle. It doesn't count anymore. A ghost would not reveal themselves to 6 fucking people. That's not how ghosts work.
Maybe it was like a mass hallucination.
That's not how ghosts work.
I'm not saying it's a ghost. I'm saying maybe it's a mass hallucination.
That's not how ghosts work.
So as they leave the police station, Mikey apologizes for being a jerk. And I might actually say a douchebag, but
yeah, total douchebag.
He says from now on, he'll save his code of honor for people who matter. So they head out to meet Jerry at Bunny World. And in VO, Parker says,
somewhere on this earth, there may be a group of friends better suited to a guy like Mikey, but nowhere will Mikey find friends who love him more than we do. Friends for the rest of our lives.
And we cut to the credits, or we dissolve to credits.
Mm-hmm.
And our in gag, we're under black, and we hear another double clap, and as the lights go up, we see Mikey at home, asleep in his bed. And in VO, we hear Parker say, just checking.
Aw.
Yeah.
They love each other. This is another episode with some unapologetic male friendship, you know?
Yeah.
There's
there's
on
a slight
display.
There's a slight pullback where Parker's like, "Oh, I think I'm gonna cry," or so he does make a little kind of a
slight
smarmy kind of sarcastic
Yeah.
thing, but but essentially it's very sincere and they hug it out.
Yeah, it's a nice genuine hug, and then that little button on the end is very sweet.
Yes.
Penny for your thoughts?
I don't know how many more episodes we need like this of Mikey like feeling like he's too cool, or not too cool, but just feeling like he's being held back by these guys, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, we're 20 episodes into the first season, so I mean, it's not like every other episode's like this, and it's been a while since there was one like this, but hopefully we don't have too many more of these with this premise at least.
Yeah.
Especially, or let me just say, if they do decide to do it, get a crew that doesn't look like a bunch of fucking dorks. There's no time in this episode where I was like, man, those guys are cool.
get some badass fucking bikers that Mikey might actually be like, holy fuck.
Yeah.
I gotta go hang out with these guys.
Yeah. No shitting. I'm not shitting on the performance of the people playing Sammy and all the other. They were all great. It's just kind of a mismatch for for the biker gang thing that I think they were trying to play.
Well, who knows? Maybe in that narrow window in the early '90s, maybe those guys did look badass.
Yeah, maybe
through the lens of August through December of '91.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, like you say, I mean, they're wearing fucking Jams. It wasn't Jams shorts, but like the Jams pants. I mean, it's for people that aren't watching the YouTube version of this, that are only listening to the audio version, the pants that Sammy wore were like these, kind of baggy cotton pants that like the patterns were fucking Trapper Keeper patterns.
Yeah, like zebra stripes, multicolored things. Yeah,
it's just like fucking Trapper Keeper pants, man. Like it just.
And the jackets, like I said, the jacket was like a leather jacket, multicolor with a fucking 8-ball on the back. It's very bright and very loud. And it's just it's definitely a look. They actually reminded me of professional wrestlers, like how they look when they're not. And they're not performing. They look like dudes at the gym.
Gym bros. They look like gym bros. Yeah.
They look like they should all have gym bags with them because that's just the look of it.
That
may
point.
just be because it is 1991 or whatever.
Yeah.
And at the time, everybody looked like that or something. I don't recall, but they definitely have like a gym guys going to the gym look.
Yeah.
So
totally.
Aside from that, there's enough like just really funny shit in this episode. And Charles Rockaby in there he was great. I mean, he's just like the star of the episode,
100%. He's a joy to watch. I mean, I liked the episode. It wasn't, definitely not one of the best, but it was fun. It was fun to watch.
Yeah.
Great gags. The Kubiak, the constant coming back to Kubiak, that whole ongoing gag was great. And just a massive amount of food. And the fact that he is the fourth bud in this one, and he comes to the rescue. And and that we get to start. We do see more of that, bud connection, that psychic bud connection or whatever. They can sense when they're
bud connection.
They can sense when their friend is in trouble, right?
Yeah, it's PBC, man. It's the psychic bud connection.
And then Charles Rocket was just a freaking joy to watch and had some great lines. So it was a lot of fun.
On the next Synchronize Swatches. Here's the storyline recap of the next episode, entitled Jerry's First Date, episode 21? Right? 21? Okay.
21?
Here's the IMDb write-up. I don't know why I did that. Anyway, Jerry's not acting normal in his... Jerry's not acting normal... There's a word in there that doesn't need to be there. Jerry's not acting normal, and as his buds, Parker and Mikey get to the bottom of the problem. Surprisingly, the motive is Jerry's love of a girl, and Parker and Mikey ditch their responsibilities so he can pilot nervous...
I love these write-ups.
Yeah, these are great. Surprisingly, don't edit any of this. Leave all this in. Surprisingly, the motive is Jerry's love of a girl, and Parker and Mikey ditch their responsibilities so he can pilot nervous Jerry through his date with the girl. Now the guys must help their friend avoid Musso and avoid Mr. Lewis. At the same time, Larry is experiencing growth. So bad.
I know.
At the same time, Larry is experiencing growth spurts that him even more of a behemoth.
Brilliant.
Oh, God. All right, I'm going to do it again. I'm going to do it again all the way through without stopping, and we'll leave all this in. Jerry's not acting normal, and as his buds, Parker and Mikey get to the bottom of the problem. Surprisingly, the motive is Jerry's love of a girl, and Parker and Mikey ditch their responsibilities so he can pilot nervous Jerry through his date with the girl. Now the guys must help their friend avoid Musso and avoid Mr. Lewis. At the same time, Larry is experiencing growth spurts that him even more of a behemoth.
Fuck, dude. This one might be one of the worst.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, because I mean, like, reading it now, I remember that Mr. Lewis is in there, but there's absolutely no context for why they're avoiding.
And also, isn't it Parker that's avoiding Mr. Lewis, not Jerry?
Yeah.
So, like, the guys must help their friend, which you assume is Jerry.
They're avoiding Musso, they're avoiding Mr. Lewis, but they don't explain the context of why they're avoiding the both of them. Yeah,
and also this line, and Parker and Mikey ditch their responsibilities so he can pilot. I know you hit that hard the first time because it's
wrong.
Who wrote this?
This is not a good one.
Damn you, Anonymous.
Yeah, like I said, I don't want to spend too much time crapping on the fucking episode recaps on IMDb, but occasionally a gem like this must be highlighted.
Yeah. Oh Lord, that was tough. All right.
Yeah.
My brother's a dead man.
Jerry said you guys were going to do something really neat today.
Graze some babes.